a deeper look at guilt and innocence. In order to heal guilt, we must understand it and bring it into balance. We don't get rid of guilt or of innocence because we don't get rid of anything in this universe. Life/God/the universe is what it is right now, which is all things and all sides at all times. Dark and light, good and bad, right and wrong, and every beautiful note and fiber in between. How we heal guilt, then, is by bringing it into equilibrium, by looking at it with full acceptance and understanding. What that means to me is unconditional love. So what does that even mean, though? And where do we begin? Well, for me, I first look at where I can find that guilt within me, and I own it. And then I look for the benefits or the upsides of that thing that I think I should not feel or would be better off without. And then I look for the drawbacks or the downsides of that thing's opposite. So let's do that right now with guilt and innocence, shall we? Okay, so guilt. Yes, it's true that I am guilty of things every single day. I can certainly find it. Guilty of not doing things, quote, by the book. Guilty of not following the rules. I'm even guilty of breaking the law every single time I go even a few miles over the speed limit. Or every time I don't make a full 5-second stop at a stop sign. And I can certainly find plenty of laws and rules that I have broken in my past, in my lifetime, that are far worse than that. And I am guilty of lying every time I make an excuse to save someone's feelings instead of telling someone the truth. I'm guilty of murder when I pull the aphids off my new rosebuds because I don't want my roses to be killed and I want my roses to bloom more than I care about those aphids' life. I'm guilty of hurting people's feelings just by being myself and posting on Facebook because it rubbed them the wrong way. I'm guilty of doing things and failing to do things every single day on this planet in all kinds of ways. Because for every, quote, should in this world, there is guilt. And this world is full of shoulds. Millions and billions of shoulds. And they are all different depending on who they're coming from. Guilt is when I have an image in my head of who I am supposed to be right now and who I should be being if I were a truly, quote, good person. And if I were truly enlightened or something else like that. And then I'm clearly not matching my image of who that is. That is guilt. And we are terrified all the time that we are going to be punished for that. On some very deep and unconscious level, we're carrying that guilt and expectation of punishment all the time. The thousands of things that we perceive we are guilty for every single day contribute to this. I don't know about you, but I can find so many. I can find them all the time. Even just down to guilt about how me being me and wanting what I want in my life makes other people feel. To guilt about things that I've done in my past that have made me absolutely sick with guilt. So yes, I can most certainly find and own all that guilt. So now, what are the upsides to guilt? And what are the downsides to innocence? So first, looking at the upsides of guilt, let's see. Well, when you feel guilt or are guilty, You are aware that you are or were or are being or doing something that you believe you should not be being or doing. So I guess one upside is that guilt is an awareness. It alerts you to an awareness of something that you think, feel, or perceive you shouldn't be, do, or want. It alerts you to something that doesn't feel good to you, something about the situation that feels bad to you. But then it's up to you to explore, investigate, and identify what that something is and why, and if that's even really true for you. Because we can feel guilty for things that we shouldn't feel guilty for, but we do. And other things we are sure that we absolutely should feel guilty for, but that is up to our own looking within as well. Sometimes we are sure we should feel guilty, but if we look more deeply, we see a whole other side to the situation. And when we do, that guilt lets go of us on its own. That has been my experience many times when I've looked at things I didn't want to deeply look at, and I've seen the other side, and the guilt let go. So I guess the upside to guilt mostly is awareness of feeling that you are doing or being or wanting something that you think you should not do or be or want. And then, when you realize that, an opportunity arises to go somewhere with that and see if that's true. It's an alert to look deeper. That's basically what it is. Guilt can also be an alert and awareness of our level of compassion and caring, because there is no guilt without compassion and caring for ourselves or for others. But our compassion and caring may and can be misdirected in any given moment. And so there's an opportunity to look into that there too, to not just accept the guilt at face value, but to look at the situation from a higher view. Sometimes guilt is just a knowing that we did something against our own true nature, and it feels really bad, and it can be a compass to us in that way. But it is still not to be straightly obeyed, even in those cases, because sometimes our loyalty is misdirected. Sometimes we are attempting to be true to someone else instead of to ourselves. And we have failed at that, and it feels bad. But it only feels bad because you think you should have been serving their truth and not your own. So from this, we can see that guilt is a navigational tool, right? A signpost that invites you to go deeper. It helps you learn about yourself and what you value. And it helps you learn about what you actually value versus what you think and believe you should value. Okay, so now, in order to own both sides of the coin and to bring ourselves more into equilibrium here, what are some downsides to innocence? At first, that may seem really hard to find. At first, we can't really see any downsides to innocence. I mean, it's what everyone always wants to be, right? Innocent. We praise and revere innocence. We hold it very high in this world. But I suppose the key to seeing this is in looking at the things that we uphold as the utmost innocence, like babies or baby animals, right? So if we look there, it's clear to see that one downside is maybe a lack of defense or protection, perhaps, or a lack of knowing or a lack of experience. They are innocent before the trials of life. That innocence is then viewed to be lost in the trials of life ahead of them, because life is experience, and experience is not one-sided. It is dark and light, good and bad, and everything in between. However, even babies are not innocent. We just don't judge them as guilty. It depends how you're judging guilt and innocence. It depends what you're calling that. Babies cry and bite their mother's nipples and scream and make their parents effing crazy sometimes. They are getting their needs met with no care or feeling for how anyone else feels about that or how it affects anyone but themselves. Completely, totally, and utterly selfish. And we serve that happily in most cases, and we call them innocent. And in the darkness of our minds, we call them a pain in the ass. Because we are also secretly totally selfish and we want peace and quiet. Even when we first came out of the womb as innocent babies, we have caused our mothers tremendous pain on the way. Guilty. Guilty of causing our mothers great hardship and distress and pain and not giving a damn about that or about anyone's needs but our own. Then, later in life, we're made to feel guilty because we are taught to value and serve others' needs and feelings above our own. And this is normal in our world. So the baby was never innocent. We judged them as innocent because they didn't, quote, know better. And we apparently did, quote, know better. And then, when they do know that they should be serving other people's needs and feelings above their own, and don't, we call them guilty. And whether that is wrong or right or good or bad, that is just how it works in this world at this time. We believe if everyone served themselves and their needs first, it would be total chaos and a broken world full of megalomaniac assholes. But we don't have a clue how that would actually be because nobody's ever done it. We fully encourage people to serve others first in this world, and we already do have a broken world full of megalomaniac assholes, in some people's opinion. And maybe on a bad day when we're viewing the world that way. But it's true. A world that begins with loving the innocence of loving yourself and your needs first would potentially be a world of deeply fulfilled people who don't feel the need to do horrible things in order to meet their unmet needs. And in my experience, that care and compassion for others expands rapidly and utterly naturally from that place when our needs are already met. Also, we are all meeting each other's needs all the time in this world, even as and when we are meeting our own needs first. For example, the child, the baby, the little kid, selfishly plays outside all day long doing nothing but enjoying herself, and the mother is delighted and feels proud because she gets to feel like she's a good mom and she gets to see that smile and all that joy. She tells herself that she did that, and it meets her need to feel purposeful and her need for meaning and connection. And the child gets to meet her need to explore and feel joy and be curious. And one day, those roles may very well reverse. And who would we all be if we didn't fight ourselves about that? We are all getting some need met all the time. The need to be right, the need to be better, the need to prove ourselves, or the need not to. There are billions of needs and billions of ways life meets those needs, even when our eyes are not open to seeing that in its full and beautiful spectrum. So the downsides to innocence then, let's look at that. The downsides to innocence are believing that the universe is one-sided and one thing. The downside to innocence is not knowing the fullness of experience, the heights of joy and the depths of sadness and everything in between. The downsides of innocence are the missing out on the full depth and breadth of life, being able to feel and know every exquisite and fleeting fiber of the full range of human experience. Another potential downside of innocence could be not realizing the apparent effect that you have on other beings. If you are always innocent, you do not truly get that you touch other beings. Just as we are able to bring people joy, we are also able to bring them sadness. We have an effect in this world. We touch each other, and it is one of the greatest gifts of being human and apparently feeling separate. Our connection. If you didn't believe you've ever done anything wrong or didn't ever do anything wrong, you would never connect with anyone or anything outside of that one tiny small bubble of experience. You would separate yourself from anyone or anything that didn't match that. And you would miss out on all of the gifts that arise of that knowing and the gifts that arise of yours and other people's guilt. So if there's something that you're feeling guilty about, I invite you to go to that event or that thing and to find the benefits and the upsides that came or will come of that event or that thing. And I invite you to find the drawbacks and the downsides of that thing never happening or never having happened. There are gifts to be collected there, I assure you. I have done it myself again and again, and every single time there is such beauty there. Such beauty there in what I thought was only shit. I was sure it was only shit, and I always find beauty when I really deeply look. So I really hope this has been helpful to you. And I would love it if you would share with me if it has been helpful to you or what particularly was helpful to you. And if you are sitting there and you're feeling a hot flush of knowing that there is something there that you do not want to look at or feel, and this is triggering that, I so get it. I so am with you. I have felt that feeling so many times, and I have looked those darkest moments in the eye, and I know how much it hurts. And it's going to be okay. I promise. It's just a feeling. And underneath that feeling is gold. I promise. You don't need to keep carrying that anymore. You can set yourself free from it. In fact, in some place deep within you now, you already are. You already are free from it. And this work will just help you touch into that place. Fully here, fully present, all the time. Just like that guilty and innocent baby. Bringing utter pain and utter joy into this world all at once. The excruciating beauty and depth of love. That's you. That's beautiful, precious, wonderful you. All right, that's it for today. I hope this was helpful. I look forward to hearing what has come up for you. All my love.